They screamed down drag strips, melted rubber into pavement, and shocked crowds with times that seemed impossible. The 1960s wasn't just the golden era of muscle cars. It was the decade when quarter-mile kings were crowned and legends were born. These weren't just cars. They were American-made missiles designed for one purpose: to conquer 1,320 feet of asphalt faster than anything else on the road. What if I told you the fastest muscle cars of the 60s could still give modern performance machines a run for their money? No computers, no launch control, no fancy traction systems, just raw, unbridled horsepower and the smell of high-octane fuel. Today, we're counting down the 12 fastest quarter-mile monsters of the 1960s. Number 12, 1966, Dodge Coronet 426 Hemi. Let's kick things off with Mopar muscle that could tear up the asphalt like it was tissue paper. The 1966 Dodge Coronet with the 426 Hemi wasn't just quick. It was a statement from Chrysler that they weren't playing around anymore. Under that unassuming hood sat the legendary 426 Hemi 5.8, nicknamed the Elephant Engine because of its massive size and power. Officially rated at 425 horsepower, but insiders knew the real number was closer to 470. That's right. Dodge was sandbagging the numbers to keep insurance companies and racing officials off their backs. Paired with a 4-speed manual and a heavy-duty rear end, this was a street-legal race car wearing a family sedan's clothes. In stock form, the Coronet Hemi would blast through the quarter mile in just 13.8 seconds at 104 miles per hour. That might not sound mind-blowing today, but in 1966, that was fast enough to embarrass almost anything else on the road. And remember, that's with bias-ply tires that had all the grip of bowling shoes on a waxed floor. What made the Coronet truly special wasn't just its speed, it was its subtlety. Unlike some muscle cars that screamed, "Look at me," the Coronet could be ordered with minimal badging, making it the perfect sleeper. Imagine pulling up next to one at a stoplight, thinking it's just another family car, only to watch it disappear into the horizon when the light turns green. Only about 400 Coronets were built with the Hemi option in 1966, making them incredibly rare today. A true wolf in sheep's clothing, the Coronet Hemi set the stage for what was to come in the muscle car wars and still stands as one of the most respected quarter-mile warriors of its era. Number 11, 1968 Shelby GT 500 KR. When Carroll Shelby took Ford's Mustang and transformed it into the GT 500 KR, he wasn't building a car. He was crafting a legend. The KR stood for King of the Road, and this wasn't just marketing hype. This was a coronation. The heart of this beast was Ford's 428 Cobra Jet V8, officially rated at 335 horsepower. But here's the truth that Ford didn't want insurance companies to know. The real output was closer to 410 horsepower and a pavement-wrinkling 440 pound-feet of torque. The 428 Cobra Jet featured larger valve heads, a beefier intake manifold, and a ram air induction system that force-fed the engine cool air when the driver put their foot down. On the drag strip, the GT 500 KR would thunder through the quarter mile in 13.7 seconds at 107 miles per hour. With a skilled driver and some minor tuning, 13.5 seconds was achievable. Blistering performance for a production car you could drive to work every day. But the GT 500 KR wasn't just about straight-line speed. Shelby upgraded the suspension, added power steering, and installed power front disc brakes, making this Mustang as comfortable carving corners as it was dominating drag strips. Inside, the wood-rimmed steering wheel, functional roll bar, and unique gauges reminded you that this wasn't your secretary's pony car. With only 1,571 examples produced in 1968, 1,053 fastbacks, and 518 convertibles, the GT 500KR remains one of the most sought-after Shelby Mustangs ever created. Its combination of stunning looks, Shelby pedigree, and quarter-mile dominance make it an undisputed muscle car royalty that still commands respect more than 5 decades later. Number 10. 1965. Pontiac Catalina 2+2 421 Tri-Power. While everyone remembers the GTO, real Pontiac aficionados know the Catalina. 2+2 was the brand's secret weapon on the drag strip. This full-size muscle car packed Pontiac's mighty 421 cubic inch V8 with tri-power carburation, 3 two-barrel carbs that opened progressively as your right foot got heavier. The numbers were impressive, 338 horsepower in standard form, but the HO, high-output version, cranked out 376 horses and 461 pound-feet of torque. Pontiac even offered an ultra-rare 421 Super Duty version that made well over 400 horsepower, though Pontiac officially rated it at just 370 to keep the corporate brass happy. Despite its size, and the Catalina was a big car, this Pontiac could hustle through the quarter mile in just 13.6 seconds at 106 miles per hour with the right driver. That's with a curb weight of nearly 4,000 pounds. Imagine what it could do if it went on a diet. The Catalina 2+2 had an advantage on the strip that many don't realize: its weight distribution. With that big V8 pushed far back in the chassis, it actually had better traction than many lighter cars, allowing it to hook up and go without excessive wheel spin. What made the Catalina special was that it was a gentleman's express that could throw down with the best of them. With its upscale interior, smooth ride, and subtle styling cues, it didn't scream, "Race me," like a GTO. But when the Christmas tree lights counted down at the local strip, this big Pontiac showed its true colors. Only about 11,500 Catalina 2+2s were made in 1965, with only a fraction getting the 421 tri-power setup. Today, they're among the most underappreciated muscle cars of the era, overlooked gems that could hang with the best, while carrying 5 adults in comfort. Number 9. 1969. Ford Mustang Boss 429. Sometimes the fastest cars aren't built for the quarter mile. They just happen to be spectacular at it. That's the story of the 1969 Boss 429 Mustang, a car Ford created specifically to homologate their new 429 engine for NASCAR. The Boss 429 was a beast. Ford engineers had to modify the Mustang's engine bay just to fit the massive 429 cubic inch V8 with its semi-hemispherical combustion chambers and giant ports. Officially rated at 375 horsepower, again that insurance fiction, the real output was well over 450 horses and 490 pound-feet of torque. When it hit the drag strip, the Boss 429 would thunder through the quarter mile in 13.5 seconds at 108 miles per hour right off the showroom floor. With some tuning and better tires, high 12s were easily within reach. But here's what made the Boss 429 special. It wasn't actually designed for drag racing. Its engine was built for sustained high RPM running on NASCAR ovals. The fact that it was a drag strip monster was almost accidental. The Boss 429 was overbuilt in every way: forged pistons, 4-bolt main bearings, a forged steel crank, and an aluminum high-rise intake manifold. It was essentially a race engine with license plates. Ford built just 859 Boss 429 Mustangs in 1969 and another 499 in 1970, making them among the rarest and most valuable muscle cars ever produced. Each one was hand-assembled with the VIN matched to the engine. It wasn't cheap either. The Boss 429 package added over $1,200 to the base price, equivalent to about $9,000 today. What you got for that money wasn't just straight-line speed, but a piece of Ford racing history that could be driven on the street. A NASCAR engine and a pony car body. The Boss 429 wasn't just fast. It was engineering audacity that few companies would attempt today. Number 8. 1966 Chevrolet Chevelle SS 396 L78. In 1966, Chevrolet wasn't messing around. When they dropped the L78 396 big block into the Chevelle SS, they created a quarter-mile assassin that looked like an everyday mid-size car. This wasn't just a muscle car. It was a declaration of war. The L78 version of the 396 cubic inch V8 was rated at 375 horsepower, but dyno tests showed closer to 415 horses. With solid lifters, a high-lift camshaft, 11-to-1 compression, and a Holley 4-barrel carburetor, this engine had more in common with Chevy's race motors than their typical street engines. At the drag strip, the L78 Chevelle would blast through the quarter mile in 13.4 seconds at 105 miles per hour. With slicks and some tuning, high 12s were possible, numbers that would still raise eyebrows today. What made the 66 Chevelle special was its perfect combination of size, weight, and power. At around 3,600 pounds, it was lighter than full-size muscle cars, but had enough weight over the rear wheels to hook up without excessive wheel spin. The mid-size platform was nimble enough to handle well, but substantial enough to handle the torque of the big block. Chevrolet didn't build many Chevelle with the L78 option. Estimates suggest fewer than 3,100 were made in 1966. Many buyers opted for the standard 325 horsepower version of the 396, not realizing the L78 was essentially a detuned racing engine. The 66 Chevelle SS 396 L78 established a template that muscle car makers would follow for years. Take a mid-size car, stuff it with the biggest engine possible, and watch the competition disappear in your rearview mirror. Simple, effective, and devastatingly quick. Number 7. 1969. Plymouth Roadrunner 426 Hemi. When Plymouth created the Roadrunner, they had one goal: maximum performance at minimum cost. Then they ruined that formula by offering the 426 Hemi engine, transforming this budget muscle car into one of the most fearsome quarter-mile machines ever built. The 426 Hemi was Mopar's nuclear option. With its hemispherical combustion chambers, dual 4-barrel carburetors, and forged internals, it officially made 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. But nobody believed those numbers. On an engine dyno, stock 426 Hemis regularly showed 470-plus horsepower and over 500 pound-feet of torque. At the drag strip, a stock Hemi Roadrunner would blast through the quarter mile in 13.3 seconds at 107 miles per hour. The combination of the Hemi's explosive power and the Roadrunner's relatively light weight for a muscle car made it a stoplight terror that few could touch. What made the Hemi Roadrunner special wasn't just its raw speed, it was its no-frills attitude. While the Roadrunner itself was a budget muscle car with a cartoon bird as its mascot, the Hemi version was deadly serious. No fancy trim, no unnecessary luxuries, just an engine that could tear asphalt from the earth and a horn that went beep beep. Of the 84,420 Roadrunners built in 1969, only 788 came with the Hemi. That rarity, combined with its legendary quarter-mile performance, has made Hemi Roadrunners among the most valuable muscle cars on the planet. Today, they regularly fetch seven-figure prices at auction. The 1969 Hemi Roadrunner wasn't just fast, It was the perfect expression of the muscle car ethos. Take a simple car, add a ridiculously powerful engine, and let physics sort out the rest. It was American muscle in its purest form. Number 6. 1967. Chevrolet Corvette L 8842-7. Some cars are fast. Some cars are rare. The 1967 Corvette L88 was both, and then some. This wasn't just a Corvette. It was essentially a race car with headlights and a warranty. The L88 42.7 cubic inch V8 was officially rated at 430 horsepower, but that number was a complete fiction. In reality, the engine produced well over 550 horsepower and 500-plus pound-feet of torque. Why lie? Because Chevrolet didn't want the average buyer anywhere near this car. The L88 was designed for racers, and Chevy did everything they could to discourage casual buyers, including deliberately underrating the horsepower. On the drag strip, the L88 Corvette would thunder through the quarter mile in 13.1 seconds at 112 miles per hour. With slicks and some tuning, 12-second passes were easily achievable. Remember, this was 1967. Most production cars couldn't even hit 100 miles per hour in the quarter mile. The L88 package was more than just an engine. It included heavy-duty suspension, bigger brakes, a special aluminum radiator, and a host of racing-focused upgrades. What it didn't include: a heater, radio, or power steering. This was a race car, not a daily driver. Chevrolet built just 20 L88 Corvettes in 1967, followed by 80 in 1968 and 116 in 1969, making them among the rarest production Corvettes ever made. Today, they're worth millions, if you can find one for sale. The 1967 Corvette L88 wasn't just one of the fastest cars of its era. It was a statement from Chevrolet's engineers that they could build a world-class performance car when the corporate bean counters weren't looking. It was American engineering at its finest, a thinly disguised race car that just happened to be street legal. Number 5. 1966. Shelby Cobra 427 SE. Is it cheating to include the Cobra on this list? Maybe. Was it a mass-produced muscle car? Not exactly. Was it the most terrifying quarter-mile weapon of the 1960s? Absolutely. The Cobra 427 SC semi-competition was created when Carroll Shelby had 31 unsold competition Cobras that couldn't be homologated for racing. His solution? Modify them slightly and sell them as street cars. The result was the fastest, most powerful street-legal car America had ever seen. At the heart of this beast was Ford's 427 cubic inch V8, conservatively rated at 425 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. In reality, the engine made closer to 485 horsepower. In a car that weighed just 2,300 pounds, the power-to-weight ratio was nothing short of savage. On the drag strip, the Cobra 427 SC would blast through the quarter mile in 12.4 seconds at 118 miles per hour. For context, that was faster than many purpose-built drag cars of the era, and this was a street-legal machine you could drive to the grocery store, if you dared. What made the Cobra special wasn't just its raw speed, it was the experience. With no roof, no windows, side exit exhaust pipes, and that massive Ford V8 just inches from your feet, driving a 427 Cobra was like riding a controlled explosion. It was violent, visceral, and utterly intoxicating. Shelby built just 31 SC models, with around 300 standard 427 Cobras. Today, original examples regularly sell for millions, with the rarest SC models fetching over $5 million at auction. The Cobra 427 SC wasn't just one of the fastest cars of the 1960s. It might be the purest expression of Carroll Shelby's philosophy. Lightweight, overpowered, and uncompromising. It wasn't practical, comfortable, or even particularly safe. But none of that mattered when you crushed the accelerator and felt your eyeballs get pushed back into your skull. Number 4. 1968. Dodge Hemi Dart LO23. Some muscle cars were built for the street. Some were built for the strip. The 1968 Dodge Hemi Dart was built for one thing only: to dominate NHRA Superstock drag racing. And dominate it did. This wasn't a regular Dart with a big engine. This was a purpose-built race car with just enough concessions to be technically street legal. Dodge started with bare Dart bodies and shipped them to Hurst Performance for modification. The transformation was comprehensive. Fiberglass hood, fenders, doors, and bumpers, plexiglass windows, no heater, radio, or sound deadening, and minimal seating. Under the hood was the legendary 426 Hemi, but not just any Hemi. These engines were hand-built with special high-flow heads, solid lifters, and a cross-ram intake with dual Holley 4 barrels. Officially rated at 425 horsepower, these race-tuned Hemis produced well over 500 horses. The result? The lightest factory Hemi car ever built, weighing just 3,100 pounds. At the drag strip, these cars would blast through the quarter mile in 10.8 seconds at 100 to 26 miles per hour right out of the box. With tuning and race gas, 10.3-second passes were possible. In 1968, this wasn't just fast, it was otherworldly. Dodge built just 80 Hemi Darts, alongside 70 similar Plymouth Hemi Barracudas, and each one came with a disclaimer stating it was meant for use in supervised acceleration trials and is not intended for street use or operation on public highways. That was Dodge's way of saying, "This is a race car. Don't sue us if you kill yourself." The Hemi Dart wasn't just one of the fastest quarter-mile machines of the 1960s. It might be the most purposeful factory drag car ever built. It wasn't pretty, comfortable, or practical. It was a single-minded tool, designed to do one thing better than anything else: devour quarter miles, one at a time. Number 3. 1969. Dodge Charger Daytona 426 Hemi. Sometimes the fastest muscle cars don't look like traditional muscle cars at all. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona looked like it escaped from NASA, with its pointed nose cone and towering rear wing. But this wasn't just for show. This was a car engineered to break records. Created specifically to dominate NASCAR superspeedways, the Daytona was America's first production car designed in a wind tunnel. The aerodynamic modifications weren't subtle, but they were effective, reducing drag by 15% compared to a standard Charger while providing downforce at high speeds. While most Daytonas came with the 440 Magnum 5.8, 70 lucky buyers got the legendary 426 Hemi. With its official rating of 425 horsepower, actually closer to 470, and 490 pound-feet of torque, the Hemi Daytona was an absolute monster on the drag strip. In stock form, a Hemi Daytona would thunder through the quarter mile in 13.0 seconds at 108 miles per hour. Not the quickest car on this list, but remember, the Daytona was built for 200-mile-per-hour NASCAR ovals, not drag strips. The fact that it was this quick in the quarter is a testament to the raw power of that Hemi engine. What made the Daytona special wasn't just its speed, it was its audacity. In an era when muscle cars were getting wilder by the month, Dodge created something that looked like it belonged in outer space. The 19-inch tall rear wing, the pointed nose cone, the hidden headlights. This wasn't subtle muscle. This was a statement. With only 503 Daytonas built, including the 70 Hemi cars, These winged warriors are among the most valuable and sought-after muscle cars ever created. They represent the moment when Detroit engineers were given free rein to build the fastest car possible, regardless of what it looked like or how practical it was. The Hemi Daytona wasn't just fast. It was the physical embodiment of Dodge's win-at-all-costs racing philosophy. It was outrageous, impractical, and absolutely glorious. Number 2. 1966. Ford Fairlane, 427 R-Code. Not all quarter-mile kings wore flashy clothes. The 1966 Ford Fairlane, 427 R-Code, was the ultimate sleeper, a mid-size family car packing one of the most fearsome engines ever installed in a production vehicle. The R-Code 427 wasn't just any big block. Now, this was Ford's legendary side-oiler, 427, a race-bred powerhouse with cross-bolted main caps, solid lifters, and a high-rise dual-quad intake manifold topped with 2 massive Holley 4-barrels. Officially rated at 425 horsepower, dyno tests showed these engines regularly produced over 500 horses and 480 pound-feet of torque. In a car weighing just 3,400 pounds, that power translated to explosive performance. At the drag strip, the 427 Fairlane would blast through the quarter mile in 11.8 seconds at 120 miles per hour with an experienced driver. That wasn't just quick for 1966. That's still quick today, over 5 decades later. What made the 427 Fairlane special was its unassuming appearance. Without the subtle 427 badges on the fenders, it looked like any other Fairlane on the road. Inside, there were no special gauges, no fancy trim, just a basic interior with a floor shifter for the top-loader 4-speed. Ford built just 57 R-Code Fairlanes in 1966, making them among the rarest muscle cars ever produced. Most went straight to drag racers who knew what these cars were capable of. Today, authentic R-Code Fairlanes are worth well over $200,000. If you can find one. The 1966 Ford Fairlane 427 R-Code wasn't just one of the fastest quarter-mile machines of the 1960s. It might be the most underrated muscle car ever built. It didn't have the flash of a Mustang or the swagger of a GTO. It didn't need it. It had raw, unbridled speed that could humble anything else on the road. Number 1. 1969 ZL1 Camaro. At the top of our countdown sits the rarest, most powerful, and most valuable muscle car ever built for the quarter mile, the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. This wasn't just a fast car. This was Chevrolet's ultimate weapon, a street-legal race car that could outrun anything else on the road. The ZL1 engine was mythical. An all-aluminum 427 cubic inch big block originally developed for Can-Am racing, it was officially rated at 430 horsepower. The real number? Over 550 horsepower. Each engine was hand-built, blueprinted, and dyno-tested before installation. In 1969, this engine alone cost $4,160. Nearly as much as an entire Corvette. In a car weighing just 3,400 pounds, that power translated to quarter-mile times that seemed impossible for a production car. In stock form, the ZL1 Camaro would blast through the quarter mile in 11.6 seconds at 122 miles per hour. With slicks and tuning, 11.0-second passes were achievable. In 1969, this wasn't just fast. It was otherworldly. What made the ZL1 Camaro special wasn't just its raw speed, it was its duality. Despite its race-bred engine and track-focused suspension, it looked like a standard Camaro SS. No special badging, no wild graphics, just subtle ZL1 codes on the trim tag that only insiders would recognize. Chevrolet built just 69 ZL1 Camaros, each one special ordered through the legendary COPO system. They weren't advertised in brochures or displayed in showrooms. You had to know someone who knew someone to even learn these cars existed. Today, original ZL1 Camaros regularly fetch over $1 million at auction. They represent the absolute pinnacle of 1960s muscle car performance, the fastest, most powerful production cars Detroit ever created during the golden age of muscle. The 1969 ZL1 Camaro wasn't just the fastest quarter-mile machine of the 1960s. It might be the most special muscle car ever built. It was Detroit engineering at its finest, a no-compromise performance car that existed for one reason only: to be the fastest thing on the road. Mission accomplished. These weren't just cars. They were American legends cast in steel and chrome, powered by engines that roared like thunder and moved like lightning. From showroom stockers that could run 13-second quarters to hand-built race cars with license plates, the 1960s gave us the fastest, most visceral machines Detroit would ever produce. What's most impressive isn't just how fast these cars were then, it's how their performance still commands respect today. Even with all our modern technology, sophisticated electronics, and computer-aided design, a well-tuned muscle car from the 60s can still put up quarter-mile times that make modern sports cars sweat. Which of these quarter-mile kings would you want in your garage? The sleeper Ford Fairlane, the outrageous Dodge Daytona, or the ultimate ZL1 Camaro? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this high-octane trip down memory lane, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and smash that notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive into automotive history. We've got more muscle car mysteries, forgotten drag strip heroes, and untold performance stories coming your way. Until next time, keep your tires hot, your timing perfect, and your eyes on the Christmas tree. The quarter mile awaits. Stay fast, stay loud, and stay legendary.